I don't know what happened there. I'm having to make some adjustments here because we apparently, I don't know if my internet went out or what happened there, but YouTube cut us off. All right, can you guys hear me and see me now? I don't usually yell at Logan. All right, cool. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Like, I don't know if my internet crapped out or what, but we're back. So Salome's over here, so she didn't do it. Julia says it's my arcade draining my power. Well, it was my internet, it wasn't my power. Or it was either my internet or YouTube just had some issues, but all right, what I don't even remember what I was talking about. So oh yeah, so not only is there the new Eternia playset for $600, but Mondo is releasing their Battle Cat this month for $500. So that I mean, I would be more inclined to get the Battle Cat, to be honest, but I don't know if I have the space for it. But I did get their. I don't usually collect 12-inch figures, but their deluxe He-Man figure looked really nice, so I ended up getting that. So I feel like I need to get Battle Cat for him to ride on, but I haven't decided whether I'm going to get that or not. KJ, yes, Tron. Tron is back there next to Dragon's Lair. Tiglu, am I in on a Super 7 Snow Meow? Did I pre-order Snow Meow? Um, I no, I don't think I did. Or did they do him? Did they do? I've lost track. But no, I did get the Snow Man figure, but that was another character where like I barely remember. So I'm definitely. I mean, for me, I'm cutting back a lot of stuff, not just because of raising prices. In fact, to me, it's more about a space issue because I'm running out of space, and it's like I buy stuff and then like I don't open it because I'm like I don't know where to put it. So I don't want to open something until I've figured out a space for it. So I find myself getting backed up on stuff that I haven't even opened just because I don't know where to display it. So like I'm probably about done with NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures. They've given me most of the characters that I wanted. So they're getting into such obscure characters that in my shelf, I mean, I have a whole cabinet devoted to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NECA animated series figures, but that cabinet's getting kind of full. So, and like ThunderCats, I'm going to be very much more selective. I pre-ordered the Snarf and the Rotaro today, but those were the only two from the Wave 7 that I pre-ordered today. So I'm going to be much more selective on ThunderCats. Even like Masters of the Universe. I really like the Masterverse line, but I don't need like 20 He-Mans and Skeletors. So I definitely going to get the Manny faces. I'm going to get the Too Bad deluxe figure. I've got Frosta and Zodak coming from Big Bad Toy Store. I've got that wave coming. I'll get the Revelation Sorceress. I'll get the Sunman and the Pighead figure. But like definitely like all the duplicate He-Mans and stuff, and Skeletors and stuff. I'm probably not going to get that the second deluxe Man at Arms figure. I'm probably not going to get that one either. Nick, do I still do toy reviews? On occasion, but not that often. I found they didn't get a lot of views usually, and I mean, there's so many people out there doing toy reviews. It's kind of like an oversaturated market type thing. So I don't do a lot of reviews. If I review something, it's usually something that I really like. So it's probably going to be a good review if I'm reviewing it. But I focus more on the news side of things these days. Well, and I've been collecting Origins too, and like if I can find it at Walmart, I'll get the Moss Man, assuming if I can find it. But Walmart sucks for exclusives, so I don't feel confident that I'll be able to find it. Um, but and again, like the different He-Mans and stuff, I don't know. KJ, can I interview Emily from Hasbro GI Joe team? I don't generally, probably not, to be absolutely honest. I mean, I Emily hasn't come calling wanting to do an interview with me, and so if she did, then I probably would do one. But I'm not huge on those interviews because I don't feel like they usually result much in information. If there's information Hasbro has to give us, they usually put it out there. The interviews generally tend to me are just kind of redundant. So, but anybody from Hasbro, I mean, we saw Dan Young chime in last week in the live stream. So, if he's watching and he wants to do an interview or come on a live stream with me, yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk with him. But but I feel like I probably would ask questions that they really wouldn't want to answer, and um so probably to answer your question, probably not. I do like Emily, to be absolutely honest. I see some people out there like making fun of her and stuff, and I will admit, when she first came on the scene, I mean, and she even admitted that she really didn't know much about the GI Joe brand. She wasn't like a diehard GI Joe fan or anything. She was a marketing person brought onto the brand to do a job, but I give her credit for you know she tries to communicate as best as she can with Joe collectors. She tries to put out information. When rumors start to swirl, she's usually pretty quick to kind of squash them when they're not legit rumors. So I give her credit for communicating probably about as good as one can in a corporate environment like Hasbro. and providing information. I don't think she's a liar, but again, if you've ever worked in a corporation, you know, there's only certain things that you can say. You can't be full transparency. You can't just, you know, it's just the environment that they work in. So is she going to say something that's going to cost her her job? No. So you've got to give her credit for trying to communicate with us as much as possible, okay, that her job allows her to. You know, the alternative is they just go silent and they don't tell us anything. And you can look at a company like Mattel, and I can tell you there's one guy at Mattel who does a fairly good job of trying to communicate with its fan base, and it's one of the guys on the WWE team. But you know, Mattel's horrible at communications with its fans. You know, they do once in a blue moon, you know, something like they did this week with that influencer event, but you know, they're not very good at communicating. So, you know, you've got to understand, you know, and if you've worked in a corporation, you know, I think you can easily understand what it must be like for them. But you know, you got to realize that they're not going to be able to just be complete and utter transparency. But I feel like Emily does her best to get out as much information about the line as she possibly can. So my hat's off to her for doing that. Um, and when I see guys going online and making fun of her and posting stupid memes and stuff like that, I'm like, all you guys are doing is just likely going to cause these guys to just go away and not even try and communicate with us. You're not really doing the fandom any favors when you do that. I don't expect it to stop because it gets attention, but you know, based on my experience, you're not really doing the fandom any favors by doing that stuff. So, um, and that's just my 2 cents. No, I don't have Todd's number, but I have interviewed Todd. But I will tell you, I did that interview with Todd McFarlane 2 years ago, right? And I thought it was a good interview, but they've never reached out to me again after that to do an interview. Now I've noticed that after that Shartimus Prime interview that Todd McFarlane did earlier in the year, where Todd kind of stuck his foot in his mouth about the female action figures and all that, which caused a big brouhaha on the internet, where even some like mainstream uh, websites were picking up on that story. I've not seen Todd do any interviews with anybody in the what you know you might call the toy press. He'll do interviews with like mainstream media like a CBR or a comic book you know .com or something like that. But I've not seen him do any interviews recently with toy press. And the other thing I always laughed about Todd is while he used to do some interviews with, you know, the toy press or whatever you want to call it, um, like he would never like you would never see him retweet about him those interviews on his social media or anything like that. It was almost like he was embarrassed to be interviewed by like the toy media. You'll see him, you know, again if it's like a CBR or an IGN or something like that, you'll see him like retweet, you know, links to the interviews and stuff for those websites. But even when he was doing interviews with the toy press, I never saw him actually go out of his way to try and help promote that or anything like that. I I asked him some KG. My interview was back when he first took over the DC Multiverse license, and I did ask him some, you know, I wouldn't call super hard questions, but I did ask some, you know, questions, some legit questions. But and maybe they didn't like that. I don't know. I mean, they don't tell you. They don't like, oh yeah, you asked a question we didn't like, so we're never going to talk to you again. They just kind of go silent and you don't hear from them. And to be on and to be fair, I don't go out. I don't like go trying to reach out to them. I'm not like emailing them or running up to them at conventions and go, "Hey, can I do an interview with you? Can I do an interview with you?" You know, my feeling is I run one of the largest action figure news sites, if not the largest on the internet. If you want to do an interview with me, you know how to contact me. You have my, you know, email. I know they have my email address. And with that Todd McFarlane interview I did a couple years ago, they were the ones that reached out to me and set that up. But that was the last time I ever really heard from them in regards. I still get press releases. If they have a press release that they want to get passed around, then then they find my email and they send that to me. But they're not like banging my door down to do an interview with me. And that's the thing, you know, with any of these guys is these toy companies don't really view it as that important to do an interview with any of us. They'll do them sometimes so they can kind of like be like, oh look, we're reaching out to the fandom, right? But they don't. If you ask them questions that they don't like, you know, you're likely gonna find yourself on a list where you don't get to do interviews anymore. Yeah, Corn Viper at $15 an issue. I'm not too. I don't feel too threatened by Toy Collector magazine. If you guys have $15 to spend for a monthly magazine to read up on news that you can get for free faster on the internet, then more power to you. But yeah, I'm not too threatened by any print publication in this day and age. I went up against, you know, the likes of Toy Fair in their prime, and you know I'm still here today. Toy Fair magazine isn't. So Corn Viper, I do remember. I know who you're talking. I forget his name, but like he went on that live stream with Unparalleled Universe, and I thought that was a good live stream. That guy, you know, was honest, gave out good information. Probably too much information. You know, I can't say for sure, but I have a feeling that perhaps he got yelled at, or maybe even I don't know if he even still works at McFarlane Toys. I think he does, but I won't say that for sure. But I remember that live stream he did with Unparalleled Universe, and then that was the last time we ever saw one. And I feel like it was because he probably said things he wasn't supposed to, and probably got in trouble. Uh, Michael, no idea. There's a convention at the end of the month in London, the MCN London convention, which Hasbro will be at. I don't expect it to be live streamed unless somebody there live streams it in the audience. But that's going to be our next round of Hasbro reveals is from that event. But when Hasbro does an actual live stream, I have no idea. I don't remember exactly, and you know, I just felt like that he was being too honest. You know, like when Unparalleled would ask him about like things like articulation and stuff, or lack of, or what have you, or the fact that you know all these Batmans and stuff, the guy was kind of like instead of defending it, was kind of like, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking, right? And so he really didn't probably do a great job of making McFarlane Toys look good. He was probably a little too overtly on it, and to you know, I don't even know if he was supposed to be doing that. I don't know if that was like something he did on his own accord, and maybe that's why he got in trouble. And I don't even know if he got in trouble. I'm just what I do know is that's the last time he ever appeared on anybody's live stream or anything like that. Hey John, what's up? And the thing with me is like I'm not. It's not like I don't have I'm not like if I were to interview people or bring them onto a live stream or something, it wouldn't be like with an agenda like to try and get you. Like I realize these guys are doing a job. I realize that you know a lot of them are working in these corporations where they have a lot of restrictions placed on what they can do and what they can say. So I I feel like as the interviewer, if somebody's going to come on and do an interview with me, I should be able to ask as hard a question as I feel is necessary. But if they don't answer it, that's their business. I'm not going to sit there and crucify them if they don't really answer it. But like for instance, I was actually going to talk about this a little bit anyway, but I was watching this interview um that the Hasbro guys did at New York Comic Con with Boog. And overall, it wasn't a bad interview, but I felt like Boog had asked them, and you can go over to his if you haven't already, you should go over and check it out. But in the interview, he started asking them about the stretch goal figures, and like, you know, pressing them a little bit about, you know, would these be figures that, you know, we could see released other places? And you know, Hasbro gave the kind of static answer that you would expect them to give. And for me, like a follow-up question would have been you know, because their answer was that they've worked with, they didn't say anybody specific, they didn't call out Disney or Hasbro corporate or anybody specific, but they gave kind of like generalized, you know, this is, you know, we worked with everybody involved, and this is the best way we could come with being able to release these characters. And they said in that interview that, you know, we definitely, these are characters you wouldn't be seeing in 2024 or 2025. I guess they kind of left the door open that, you know, maybe 2026 or beyond, you could see these characters get released some other way if they don't get funded here. But for me, like, if I had been Boog doing the interview, my follow-up question would have been, you know, why can't you release these, you know, tell us specifically why this is the only way you can release these figures. And then even more specifically, you know, I understand, you know, HasLab, Mephisto, the Devil, how that would be a hard sell at retail, things like that. But why can't you release these figures as like a 4-pack through Hasbro Pulse, or even as a HasLab? You know, if you did a HasLab 4-pack of 4 figures, that this is the only way you'd be able to get them out to people, you know, why don't you do that as opposed to offering them through this more expensive HasLab with the car and everything? So that would have been my follow-up question had I been Boog. But I understand that, you know, Boog's, you know, trying to balance this line where he wants to ask them these questions. But if he pushes too hard, you know, again, he might find himself where he would no longer be able to do interviews in the future. So, you know, I realize the balance that Boog is probably trying to do, you know, reach with them and still try and ask some questions. But if it were me and I was doing that interview, I was watching that and I was like, well, my follow-up would be, well, why can't you do this as a 4-pack and offer it through Hasbro Pulse or even HasLab? Because HasLab shouldn't have to be like a super expensive item. HasLab should be something that you can't get released at retail, which is often a big expensive item. But if we're going to believe that, you know, you can't do characters like Goblin Queen and Mephisto at regular retail because of the nature of their characters, then it seems like HasLab would be a perfect opportunity. It wouldn't be a super expensive HasLab like we generally see, but I don't see why there should be a rule that says we can only do super expensive items through HasLab. I can understand doing things at HasLab that you can't get released at regular retail, but why couldn't you do a 4-pack of the figures that everybody says that they want? And so that, again, like I said, that would have been kind of my follow-up question to when Boog had posed the question about this. So like, you know, if Dan Young's watching tonight, you know, I pose that question to you, buddy. You know, what is the reason that you can't do a Mephisto and a Goblin Queen and even Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, just the figures, as like a multi-pack through either Pulse as a Pulse exclusive or as a HasLab, where, you know, we have to, you know, commit to it up front. I understand it's going to be a smaller production run, but, you know, we commit to it up front. Why can't you do that as a HasLab? So if any of the Hasbro guys happen to be watching this, you know, I'd love to hear the answer to that. Corn. Yeah, Ty, that was his name. I met him like the last toy fair that I went to in person. I met him at the McFarlane booth. He seemed like a nice guy. I think he does. The reason why I think he still works there is because I think he does the toy photography for McFarlane, or a lot of it. So I think that was his primary job, if I remember correctly, was doing toy photography. But Oz says he doesn't work for them anymore. John says they're running out of ideas for HasLab. Grim Viper says, "How do you know?" He was on Twitter, or not Twitter, but Instagram. I haven't checked his Instagram, so he may have posted something. I don't know. I hope he did. I hope he didn't get fired after that Unparalleled Universe live stream, because he was trying to, he was trying to, appeal to the fandom of, the DC multiverse stuff, and so if he is no longer working there, I hope it wasn't like he got fired. Well, not really. If you think about it, um, Hasbro had the Sesame Street license. I think they still do, but I won't swear to it. But they had the Sesame Street license, and HasLab was very new, and I think they were experimenting. I mean, it was Cookie Monster was not meant to really appeal to us, like most of the HasLabs, but I think the idea was, can we get parents to, commit to something like a Cookie Monster for their kids through a HasLab. I think it was an experiment. It was a failed experiment, which is why we've never seen them do anything similar to that. But yeah, they had the Sesame Street license. I can't remember if it was an anniversary year for Sesame Street or what have you, but I think it was an experiment to see if they could branch out beyond just like the action figure collectors, um, and tap more into like the parents and stuff. See, my opinion, Hasbro should stay away from the vehicles for Marvel Legends. I think any vehicle is going to be a hard sell, and they should stick with the larger characters. That's my opinion. I mean, there are definitely probably vehicles that would be more popular than Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, but I still think a lot of those vehicles are going to be bigger and more expensive, even more expensive, and I just think vehicles are a hard sell for Marvel Legends because while there's always people that say, I want this vehicle, I want that vehicle. There's a reason why vehicles have never really been a major part of any Marvel line throughout the history of Marvel figures. I mean, they really just haven't. Even with the smaller scale stuff, I mean, yeah, you had a few things. I mean, if you go back to the Secret Wars day from Mattel, but those usually seem to end up on clearance, and Toy Biz did a few things, but vehicles have just never been, especially with the larger 6-inch stuff, has just never been an integral part of a Marvel action figure line. So I think any vehicle is going to be a hard sell. Well, that's what I say. HasLab shouldn't have to be a big major item necessarily. Anything. I mean, the thing I look at it is, if Hasbro can get it out at retail, if Hasbro can get Walmart and Target to carry it, they're going to make a lot more money than anything that they could sell directly through Hasbro Pulse or HasLab. So if it is something that they could get out at regular retail, I think they're going to go that route. But for things that they just can't, for whatever reason, whether it's huge and takes up too much shelf space, whether it's something that's too expensive that a Walmart and Target would shy away from, whether it's characters that, Hasbro doesn't want to be seen selling to kids at regular retail, like Mephisto and such. Those are, perfect choices for a HasLab. And honestly, especially right now, like with such high inflation and everything, I feel like a 4-pack would have been a much better choice for a HasLab. It would have been cheaper, and it would have given collectors figures that I mean, I believe Hasbro when they tell us that Hasbro Pulse and HasLab is the only way they can get us a Mephisto figure. I know there are people that swear Hasbro's lying and that they could release it at retail. They're just not, because they're trying to hold Mephisto hostage as an incentive to buy this car. But I honestly believe them when they tell us that, a character like Mephisto is one that they really couldn't get at regular retail. So Goblin Queen, I feel like the Goblin Queen they're giving us, I feel like they could get out at regular retail probably. If they gave us a comic book accurate, based on the original costume version, that I don't think they would be able to get out at regular retail. And that's where, I said this before. I'm not, I'm not some horny teenager who has to see underboob on their action figures, but I feel like if you were going to give us Goblin Queen through HasLab, then giving us a comic book accurate version, that was a perfect opportunity. Now, my opinion is the reason why they didn't do that is because of cost. It would have required new tooling, and they wanted to just use the female bodies that they've already got in use. Is why we didn't get that. But I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity that they didn't give us a comic book accurate original comic, because going back to that book interview, I noticed they said, well, if you go look at the more modern versions of Goblin Queen, she doesn't have the underboob, and that's because Marvel itself has gotten more, as Marvel has been trying to reach out more to the female demographic and stuff with its comics, it has gotten less in sexualizing its characters. The original Goblin Queen costume was 100% designed in a different time period, where, and I understand that. I understand it's a different environment today, but I feel like, those of us who would be backing at something like a HasLab, we're going to want, the figure based on the original costume, and that would have been a perfect opportunity. Well, I mean, what are you expecting them to learn, Lone Dragon? I mean, the most likely message they're going to learn from this HasLab is, vehicles are a hard sell. So, this may very well be the last time we see a vehicle for Marvel Legends done through a HasLab. But if you think they're going to learn that they shouldn't do these expensive items, I think you're mistaken. They already said, again, going back to that book interview, they basically said they're already, planning out next year's HasLab. So whether this fails or not, and I do think it will fail, we're almost definitely going to see another HasLab next year. So if you think like the HasLab crowdsourcing thing's going to go away, whether this fails or not, I think you're mistaken. And I think, I don't want to see it fail because just for the sake of failing. I'm not backing it because I'm not interested. But, for those who wanted this, I think it's too bad it didn't get funded. But there's no like message being sent like, how we taught you a lesson, Hasbro. I mean, I know there are going to be there guys out there on YouTube who are like spewing that kind of stuff, but I don't think that's how it really works. So if you didn't want the Ghost Rider and I didn't want the Ghost Rider, I didn't back it, and it's no sweat off my back. But I'm not sitting here going, yes, it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail. We've taught you a lesson, Hasbro. It's failing. Yeah, it just, like I said, it doesn't really work that way. Even like, going back to Super 7 with the Snarf, You know, I've seen some people say, well, don't buy it and that'll teach Super 7 a lesson. Well, not really. Super 7 will likely. So, first of all, Super 7's likely going to sell plenty Snarf. First of all, this idea that you're going to get the entire fandom to agree upon something is ridiculous. Like, not to buy something. I mean, if that was at all plausible, if like we could get together as an entire fandom and say, don't buy this, then we wouldn't have scalping in this hobby. You know, if people quit buying from scalpers, scalpers would go away. But yet there have been scalpers in this hobby since as long as I've been involved with it, which is over 20 years. And I imagine there'll be scalpers long, uh, you know, past this point. And again, the reason why is because for whatever reason, people choose to buy from scalpers. We all say we hate scalpers. We hate, you know, the guy who runs out and buys everything from Walmart and then turns around and resells it at 3 or 4 times the cost. But yet people still continue to buy from them. So this idea that we're all going to unite and not buy stuff is just, it's not going to happen. It's just not realistic. But like in the case of Snarf, if say a lot of people didn't buy Snarf, okay, Super 7 is covered their bases because Super 7 is doing a made for pre-order. They're only going to make as many as they can sell. So if Snarf goes on discount, it's not going to be by Super 7. It's going to be from the small retailers like the Big Bad Toy Stores and the Entertainment Earths that choose to buy the figures from Super 7 so that they can resell it past the window. So like if next year you decide you want to buy a Snarf, you will still have the opportunity. You don't have to go buy Snarf directly from Super 7 in the little window that Super 7 gives you to buy it or pre-order it. So the only one, if it goes on discount, the discount's going to be done by the retailers, the small retailers who have chosen to carry the Super 7 product. And they're the ones that are going to take a loss if people don't buy the Snarf. But Super 7 is doing a made for pre-order. So they're only going to, you know, they're not going to go into production with Snarf until they have enough orders for it. And then, you know, whatever doesn't sell is not, I doubt Super 7 does any kind of buyback program. So if Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store aren't able to sell their inventory of those figures, they're the ones that are going to take a hurting on it, not Super 7. Jerry, I think they should have just done Snarf as a pack-in like they did with the Mumma with Mumra. They could have even stuck him in there with that red Lion-O, or one of the other figures. But you know, and like I said, I don't really need an extra tail and a head sculpt. I just want a Snarf to go with that will look good next to the rest of my, you know, is in scale and will look good with the rest of my Thundercat figures. But I don't even necessarily care if it's like super articulated or anything. So I could do with some out without some of those extra features, um, that I'm sure will be used to justify the $55 price of it. But you know, they didn't choose to do that, and part of that, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised is if they sat there and said, you know, people will pay $55 for Snarf because there's just the demand for the character. Um, so I mean, that's just business, unfortunately. Bean says he's skipping Snarf because he hates him. See, I mean, I can't say like Snarf was my favorite character, but he was an integral part of the team, you know, and I feel like, you know, if I'm going to build out the entire original team of Thundercats, you got to have Snarf with you. I mean, that's just my, I mean, I support anyone who doesn't buy Snarf. I totally support that decision. And again, you're never going to hear me sit here and say, oh yeah, Snarf is worth $55. Um, but for me personally, he's an important member of the team and an integral part of finishing out the team that I've been building. And therefore I'm going to get Snarf. 3M still trying to sell his Masterverse. I like their Masterverse Orca. And like I said, I'm very glad that I ended up getting the San Diego Comic Con exclusive 2-pack from Mattel for Wily Kit and Wily Cat, because I suspect Super 7 will do something similar with them when they finally get around to releasing them. I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't end up breaking those two up into two different waves. So you'll have to wait for two waves to get Wily Kit and Wily Cat. I mean, who knows for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Super 7 did that. Since I got the Thunder Tank, it would have been great if they had included Snarf with the Thunder Tank as a pack in, but again, they didn't do that. And if they had done that, there would have been a lot of people that would have been outraged, because then they would be like, they're trying to make us buy the Thunder Tank so we can get Snarf. I mean, to me, like I said, I understand there's a lot of things in this hobby that are frustrating, and it's easy to get upset over. I mean, there's a lot of negativity I see in this hobby these days. If you go on to any Facebook group, action figure oriented Facebook group or what have you, I mean, there's just lots of negativity. And I understand there's some reasons for that, but my feeling is you got to take the good with the bad. Um, you know, One of the upsides here, like I said at the beginning of the stream, was we're seeing a lot of obscure stuff that we probably in the past would have never seen. Yes, we're having to pay more for it, but we're getting opportunities at stuff that we probably in the past would never have gotten an opportunity to get. Um, and these are all companies, they're all businesses, they're all out to make money. Um, you know, they're not your best friends. They're employees. They're trying to do a job. The guys on the design teams, they work for these companies. So, they're trying to put out as much, you know, info as they possibly can. But, they're not going to do something that's going to cause them to get fired. I don't think any of you would do, I don't think if this was your livelihood, I don't think you would risk your job to be more transparent or what have you. So, all of those are things that, you just have to realize and kind of take with it. But, my advice to those that really just seem to hate everything, they seem to find no joy in this hobby whatsoever. If that's really where you find yourself at, then it's time to go find a new hobby. Um, Only a raving masochist continues to invest their time, energy, and money in something they don't like. Um, and that's not to say you can't complain about something. That's not to say that you can't point out something you don't like. But if that's all you're focusing on, you're putting all your focus on that. You're making video after video ranting about stuff or what have you, or you're going online every day and you're ranting about stuff, and you just are not finding any joy in this hobby. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying you should find joy, but I'm saying if you're not, then that's probably a telltale sign that it's time for you to go find a new hobby. Um, find something that is going to bring you happiness and joy. Because, like I said, there are people out there that I observe on social media that just seem to like totally hate everything and just upset with everything. And I feel like, and my first thought is, why are you even still in this hobby? Why are you, like the guy that goes on and rants about She-Hulk every week? Um, why are you watching the show if you hate it so much? It's that type of thing. It's just like, I don't know. It's confusing to me. There are definitely things about, a lot of this stuff where, I might say, oh yeah, I didn't like this or what have you. But there are also things that I do like and I do enjoy. So nothing's going to be perfect. And, that's my 2 cents to take away from tonight. Uh, I was just looks like NECA just announced that they're going to be doing Nightmare Before Christmas figures again. That was tonight's. So yeah, Nightmare. If you're a fan of the Nightmare Before Christmas, looks like NECA's going to be doing. I'm going to say 7-inch figures for that next year. And we're getting pretty close to calling it a night. I did want to talk briefly. I'm not going to specific spoilers, but I don't know if you guys saw the after credit scene for the Black Adam movie leaked out online today. I feel like it was a deliberate leak because I know in those advanced screenings, if a studio doesn't want you recording something, they make sure that you have nothing to record. But somehow it leaked out. Somebody recorded it, and it's leaked out online. So I'm not going to tell you what it is because it is a big spoiler, and if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it. But it's definitely it is making me excited for the DC universe as far as movies go again. Um, that maybe Warner Brothers is starting to get their act together a little bit. I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil it. If you know what it is, don't spoil it for other people. But I'm more excited for the Black Adam movie, even though it's only an after credit scene, so it's not really a big deal for the movie itself. But it gives me hope for the future of the DC universe. Kyle Black, now you ruined the whole movie, man. Well, three. I'm not going to tell you here, but if you want to, we posted about it on TNI, so you can go over there and check it out. Assuming it's, um, yeah. So if you haven't seen it, and you don't know what I'm talking about, and you want to, there's news about it over in TNI. Looks like we got a spam robot in the chat. All right, well, on that note, I think we're going to call it a night. But as always, guys, thank you for chiming in and sharing your thoughts and listening to me ramble on with my thoughts. You know, definitely, I love hearing your guys' input as well as sharing my own input on these things. So, um, thanks for chiming in. And until next time, guys, stay safe out there. Sorry for the glitch earlier with the disruption. I don't know what happened there, but fortunately we did recover. But yeah, so stay safe out there, guys. Look for a news video tomorrow, and until next time, I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.